Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Bookmas Day 1. I'm excited to be doing 12 days of Bookmas because I love watching all the videos online and I just thought it would be just as fun to film. So we'll see how it goes. And I already foresee that this video is going to be a very short one. And that is what is on my December TBR. Usually for my December TBR, I like to go and either finish a series or finish whatever was on my fall TBR that was not completed at the time and use December as my catch-up before the new year comes in. So I do have a few books in front of me. And I have one that I've been itching to read because it is very fitting for this season. So without further ado, let's jump right into the books. Here is the stack of books that I want to read in the month of December. If you have seen some of the videos on my channel recently, I have only been able to read probably at most 3 to 4 books each month. So this is already very ambitious. So I am curious to see how I'm going to do this month, especially for the new year. These books, at least the first book that I'm going to present, that one is going to be my utmost priority of this month. And it's very doable. So as for the other 3 that I have here, I think I'm okay with not finishing it, but still on my priority list because I just want to finish the series. And I do have one book that I've been itching to read, but I don't have a physical copy of it, and I'm really debating on whether to buy the book as well. So I'm leaning towards buying it, so I will reveal that near the end of this video. To start off, let's start with the first book that's on my December TBR, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the #1 top priority of my December TBR, mainly because this came from my fall TBR, and actually that's not the main reason. The main reason is I am in the middle of reading it. So far, if you haven't heard of Sunrise on the Reaping, I feel like everyone has heard about this book and I am late to the train on reading this book. So this is from the Hunger Games series, and we are following Haymitch's story here, and that is Katniss Everdeen's mentor. So this is the 50th Quell Games or second Quell Games. So you kind of see how his games go, how he became who he is in the Hunger Games. So in this novel, all I'm gonna say is that Suzanne Collins is doing an amazing job tying everything together, and everything just makes more sense when reading this book. I would say definitely read the Hunger Games trilogy first, then the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, and then come to this. Even though this is actually a prequel of the Hunger Games trilogy, I feel like it just makes more sense if you were to read this at the end, so that you kind of see all these characters. Actually, I don't know. Maybe you could read this as the second book technically. So in publishing order, it would be the Hunger Games trilogy, and then the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, and then finally Sunrise on the Reaping. However, if we're gonna go by chronological order of the timeline in this book, that would be the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, then Sunrise on the Reaping, and then the trilogy. I wonder if anyone has read it in that order, but that just sounds intriguing. But I feel like, would you be missing out on all the little Easter eggs we see in here and all the little sprinkles of Hunger Games and just the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes sprinkled in here? I'm curious. Maybe if you have read it in that order where it's by the timeline of the story, please let me know what you think. I'm so far enjoying this book a lot. So in the Hunger Games trilogy, you actually get to see snippets of Haymitch's Hunger Games in the novel, but you just don't know the full picture and the full story of it. But I feel like when I was reading the Hunger Games trilogy, I was very intrigued on what happened in Haymitch's Hunger Games and just his experience and his side of the story. After I finish It's Sunrise on the Reaping, I'm going to do a Hunger Games series ranking of what's my favorite to least favorite books. But number one top priority to read in December is Sunrise on the Reaping. The next is a series which I also carried over from my fall TBR, and that is the Caraval trilogy plus a novella. This is the novella Spectacular, and then I don't have Caraval with me here in this moment, but I have the second and the third book here. And I have read Caraval in March, I believe. I do remember some parts of the book. I feel like if I were to push this to 2026 to complete this series, I'm going to forget about Caraval and I have to start all over and read Caraval again. So now's the time when it's still kind of in my memory. So in the series, we have the first book, which is Caraval, and then the second book, which is Legendary, and then the third book, which is a Finale. This is a pretty thick book. How many pages are there without looking at the... Oh my gosh, there is a glossary of fates and terms. Good to know, because that would have went over my head. So it's 467 pages or 8? No, it's 470 pages. With my reading pace, I don't know, like, okay, I'm going to make it a goal. This is my December TBR. If I don't get to finish it, it's okay. I have January to finish it. Finale is the third book and probably the thickest out of all the books that I'm planning on reading in the month of December. I think after Finale, it's just really good to just read a small little novella, which is Spectacular. I heard that this was going to be holiday themed. I could technically push this trilogy and novella to next year, but taking a look at just the cover of this book, it's just screaming holiday. I have to make it a priority to finish this in the month of December. I've heard mixed reviews of the Caraval trilogy. A lot of people either really love it or not so much and prefer Once Upon a Broken Heart. But I fell in love with Caraval, so I'm excited to finish the rest of the series, and I have extremely high expectations for Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, but at the same time, I'm trying to temper it down a bit, because if I have too high of an expectation, I'm just setting myself up for failure. And finally, the last book I want to read in the month of December, based on its vibes. It's the season to read this book. And it is a new release in 2025, and that is Good Spirits by B.K. Borson. Now, I haven't read anything by B.K. Borson, and I have heard that Love Life Farms by B.K. Borson was really good and would be a really good holiday romance to read too around this time of year. But in my previous vlog where I actually borrowed it from the library, I actually returned it because I knew I wasn't going to read it. So I decided to return the book and maybe pick it up for this month. Now the holds are tremendously long. So instead, I'm thinking of still keeping my place in the library for that book. But I do want to read Good Spirits. So that is something I really want to get, and I'm thinking of ordering it maybe today, just because it is the Black Friday deal. So I don't know much about this book, but I believe it has to do with the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. I think it's kind of along that lines, and there's a romance there. I do really enjoy watching holiday movies, but when it comes to books, I'm not as intrigued to pick it up. And the only other holiday romance or just a holiday book that I've read was In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. And that one was just okay. I think I would much prefer it as a movie than reading it. In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, that one is kind of like a do-over trope where you would wake up one morning and something happens and it doesn't go to your liking, so you redo what you've done. I guess I'm not a big fan of reading holiday romance books, but that's the only experience I have, so I can't really base it off of just that. I'm very excited to read Good Spirits, and I've heard tremendous things about it, so I cannot wait to see how I'm going to feel about Good Spirits, and hopefully that would be a good holiday romance, and that would make me pick up more holiday or winter-esque books. So that is all the books that I want to read in the month of December, this is a very ambitious TBR for me, especially with an average reading of 2 to 3 books per month. Having 5 books, including Good Spirits, but technically I'm already in Sunrise on the Reaping and it's just carried over for the month of November. So technically I have 4 books. And one of them is a novella, so technically I have 3 books. That is all the books that I want to read in the month of December. Let me know what is on your December TBR and what are the books that you plan on completing before the end of 2025. I would love to know, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in Bookmas Day 2. Bye!